Hello to all my divine beings, and welcome to this week's episode of Confessions of a New Age Goddess. As always, I'm your host, Melissa, the New Age Goddess herself. Joining us today is our guest, Dawn L. Hensley, who is a metaphysical consultant for the Alpha Feminine Leader. So, Dawn, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thanks, Melissa, for having me.
Of course. Yeah, so I was really excited about this episode, actually, because what you do is very unique and I think something we could all use. If you could just, introduce yourself, tell us the name of your business and who you serve.
Yeah, absolutely. So my business is Life at Dawn. And as Melissa said, I'm a metaphysical consultant for alpha females in leadership. And the reason that I picked that niche, the reason I went so deep into that is because I myself am a former corporate executive, and I know we get really analytical and we tend to be in our heads, and so spirituality for us is a different animal because we really struggle to lean into our heart center and into the flow state, and so that is what I do and that is who I help.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I myself too used to be in the business world, a businesswoman, and yeah, it's kind of hard to separate the two, when you are an empathetic person or when you kind of have, like you said, a more heart-centered understanding from things, it is a little bit challenging to kind of put that in the mix sometimes. So that's why it's a hot topic for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And then, if you could just kind of let our audience know a brief summary of, your story, how you got to where you are presently.
Yeah, so I was born between two very different worlds. On my mother's end of the spectrum, it was very conservative Christian beliefs. Very conservative Christian beliefs. And then on my dad's side of the world, he still is a practicing Wiccan. So my whole life was sort of seeing how those two worlds, first of all, were in conflict with each other, but also how they're not in conflict with each other at all. So that was something really beautiful. Growing up, I got to see both ends of what spirituality, I'm saying that with quotation marks, looks like to different religions or to different spiritual belief patterns. And so I left my hometown, my family and friends, and I went out on this journey to lead in the corporate world. I was about 7.5 hours away from home. I really wanted to be free of all at-home baggage. And I went off on this journey and I started my corporate career, but most importantly, I started my metaphysical journey. And so that was about 9 years ago. And what a massive practice I've cultivated since then. So that's how I got from, from the world of, I'm going to call it division, into the world of unity, because that's where I exist now, is not having to separate the two, not having to be separate between my professional self and my spiritual self, and not having to be separate between, religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs, but really seeing how all those things can blend together really beautifully.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned more so that two, what would seem like opposite ends of the spectrum are really more alike than different, because there's just you're right. Yeah. There's just so many things that are borrowed from maybe other religions or traditions, and then it kind of morphs into something else, but the root and the foundation are sometimes very much alike. So very interesting. And it's cool too to really kind of see both sides of the spectrum so that you can really come up with a decision for yourself of what feels better for you, because it's kind of like trying on two different pairs of shoes. You've tried on both, and then you can kind of see which one works the best, or take bits and pieces from each. Awesome.
It's super important to be able to integrate those pieces, you know what I mean? Because your version of spirituality, your path to your source is going to look so unique. It's not going to look like any other path to source. And so, you know, a lot of what I do with my clients is I push them back into themselves. You know, instead of looking to how you were raised or to this belief that was given to you from this, you know, societal whatever, I push them back into you. Like, where does that resonate in your body? How does that feel for you? And really, we craft a path to source that is all your own, because that's the only one that counts for you in this lifetime.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think every journey should be unique because we're such unique individuals ourselves. And also bouncing off of what you said in terms of beliefs. Yeah, why is this a belief? Is it your belief? Was it
Right.
something that was, told to you as a child? And yeah, when you really center yourself and get to that feeling place, then you know what resonates and what doesn't resonate. And then
Yes.
it's so much easier to move forward from
Mhm.
there. Yeah, okay, great. And then so branching off of that, why did you decide to build your business around the metaphysical world itself?
Oh my goodness, this was my favorite question because the metaphysical is just something that I know that I was put on this planet to walk this path. You know, those things that, like, you know, some people love sports, some people love um like walks by the lake, some people love hiking or whatever. Like, my thing is the metaphysical. I'm in love with the mysteries. And so when it came to building a business around it, it was sort of like a no-brainer. Like, I mean, it was actually really painful for my brain, but my soul knew, my body knew that that was my path.
Right, right. I mean, when something resonates that strongly, it's kind of like, even if you have to reinvent something, let's say, you're so motivated to do so because it just lights you up. So it's kind of like,
Yeah,
yes, I can morph these two things into one because I can do both. And if I can
yeah,
do both, it can turn into one unique thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Makes
yeah. And so many, I think there's so much opportunity for women to see that today, you know, and that was like a huge thing. I felt so disintegrated when I left the corporate world because I just had decided that, like, my life had to be done in segments. I was a mother sometimes, and I was a lover other times, and I was a professional woman in this box, and then I was spiritual in this little corner of my life. And so, like, seeing that I get to be all of those things all the time, is, I mean, God, there's a level of peace that comes with that, that's indescribable.
Yeah, because it's not like, oh man, I have to, kind of what you were saying, I have to wear this hat today and then
Mhm.
another hat tomorrow. And then when am I really me? And another thing too, I mean, sometimes a mother's instinct is incredibly helpful in the workplace. You
Yeah,
wouldn't you wouldn't maybe think
absolutely.
it, but
Yes.
totally, yeah. Yeah. So if you can be all the things, why not? I mean, it's just more tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, we're multifaceted creators. You know, we're the one source appearing as the many. And when we hear that, we often think of, like, oh yeah, well, it's appearing as me, and it's also appearing as Melissa, and it's appearing as the audience that's hearing this right now. But we don't take that and reflect it inwards and see, like, actually, I'm the one appearing as the many within myself. You know, I have all these aspects, all these flavors, all these moods, if you will, that want to be expressed through my one being. And so, like, stepping into that is so potent. It's so potent, and it gives your life so much purpose.
Yes, and it makes you, just kind of makes you better in all arenas.
Yeah.
Um, okay, great. And then this is kind of piggybacking off this question, but what kind of, besides the strong calling to the metaphysical world, were there like occurrences in your life where you really had a strong relationship with guides, spirit, what have you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, two of my most prominent guides in this lifetime have been Thoth, or Hermes in his other incarnation, and Christ, the Christed spirit. So, those have been two of my guides. And I think, like, the pivotal moment for me, um, was, well, I mean, there were so many. The first one being in 2012 when I had my initial awakening. And actually that awakening was to the dark state. It wasn't to the light state. Like a lot of people awaken and they find their highest, most beautiful selves right from gate. And that's not how mine went. And so I had to journey through a lot of shadow work and a lot of, again, integration of shadows in the world, the things that I was seeing behind the veil, that were troubling to me. And so that was a huge motivator for me. And then flash forward to 2018, which, divinely is 6 years later, but 2018, whenever I had my daughter, she's my first and only child. And, I did not want to go back to the corporate world. I hated not being able to fully express myself, not feeling like I was honoring my spiritual, knowing and my spiritual practice. And, just the idea of like leaving my little one behind, so many blessings on the women who make that decision and they're able to do that. I was not. I was terrified of that. I wanted her to be with me always. And so there was some shadow in there I got to work through as well. But that was the pivotal moment for me where I decided to actually take my spiritual practice and turn it into a business so that I could support myself and be a mother all the time.
Right, right. No, and I think that makes a lot of sense when you have those profound moments in your life, and just how your perspective changes, your priority changes, and then you change along with it, which is a good thing. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like you have to go through those things, positive or negative, just to really see the version of you that's needed most now. And that might be subject to change, right? It might change again, and evolution's constant. But yeah,
Absolutely. It'll change again and again and again.
yes, nothing's stagnant, or it shouldn't be, at least.
Yeah, it shouldn't be stagnant. It might
We
be,
don't want that.
but we want to get out of there.
Yep, we want to grow. Okay, good. So let's say someone's like, hey, I want to work with Dawn. What would working with you look like? A session? What can you offer people out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now there are two ways to work with me. The first one is in a single powerhouse session, and that's available for anyone. It's 45 to 60 minutes where we dive into any one specific area of your life. And I really mean any one specific area, because nothing's off the table. Any one specific area of your life where you're feeling like you're out of alignment, where you're feeling like you're not in your most potent self, where you're feeling like you might be disintegrated or you might not be honoring all the aspects of you. And we dive into the language that you're using, the belief systems that you're holding, the codes, if you will, that are creating that reality for you. And we deconstruct them so that we can get to a place of neutrality and then reconstruct them in a way that is more beneficial, so that that issue usually just falls away of its own weight and you can move freely without being stuck in that space. So then the other way to work with me is in a 6-month container. Those are immersive, and you do have to message me if you want to apply, because those we work all day, every day with all of your triggers and all of the things that are coming up for you, so that in 6 months, you're totally unrecognizable, your most poised and potent self. And if you're interested in either of those, you can reach out directly to me at dawn@lifeatdawn.com. Just send me an email. And those are the two ways that you can work with me right now. That's what it looks like.
Okay, and then I can definitely link that in the bio.com.
Perfect.
As well. Okay, perfect. Alrighty. And then, so that's good. So you kind of, people have options. They have options if they just kind of want a little dive, or if they want a deep dive, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because some people aren't ready. Some people are just like, hey, I just want a peek inside and then kind of see where to go with from that. And then some people, they are ready. So you got to meet everyone where they're at.
Yeah. And it's important to figure out which one is which, especially with the work that we do, because once you hit the 6-month container, we hit the ground running. There's no turning back from there. So it's wide open.
Yeah, we're all in. Okay. Okay. And then, just when you started out yourself, what were some fears that you had to overcome in your business, and how did you manage that? I mean, starting out your own business can be very scary and overwhelming. And just how did you get through it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I don't know that we're ever really through it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
as many
agreed.
as many pivots as there are to be made, it's always a journey of up level. And so some of the fears that I had initially were like, how am I going to take care of my family? What if nobody cares about, metaphysical women in business? I mean, I had just had my baby girl, so a huge fear was really like, what if nobody cares? Like, what if nobody buys this? What if nobody's invested? And that couldn't have been further from the truth, thankfully. But the struggle is always there because as entrepreneurs, we're always doubting. We're always, concerned. Like, is this the product I think it's going to be? Is this going to be transformational in the way that I think it's going to be? So if I could like wrap it all up, I would say that my own limiting beliefs. Um, that was the biggest hurdle, the biggest journey for me in creating my own business, especially a business that's so unique.
Yes, yes. And because it is a unique business, how did you find your ideal client? How did you find the women who really, were in alignment with you and your message, so that you could help the right people at the right time?
Yeah, initially it was a lot of finding out who they weren't. And that just came from doing, the one-off sessions and figuring out like who was I able to help and who was I not able to help. And then it really came into like looking at like who am I? Where have I been? What part of someone's journey can I relate to? What part of someone's journey can I help um, to expand on, help to create light in, what part of someone's journey through life can I be of service? Like what's that space? And that's when I realized that like my whole life had been about this disintegration between being a professional woman, being a mother, and also being a spiritual woman. And that's where I was like, you know what, those are the women that I'm here to support. So it took a while to really hone in on who that person was, but through a lot of trial and error, I figured it out.
Yeah, and I love what you said when you said I had to figure out who was not the ideal client, right? Because
Mhm.
that's gonna, help you figure out who the correct one is. And yeah, it is trial and error. It's not something where I know us we want to help everybody, but sometimes it's just like I can help this, my type of people with this certain type of mindset more so than maybe I could help somebody else. And
Yeah,
there's someone for everybody. There's someone for everybody,
absolutely.
really. Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Great. And then, was there anything else you kind of wanted to let the audience know? Anything that we didn't get to that you really, really wanted to get out there?
No, I think that's it, guys. And if you go to lifeatdawn.com, as this is being recorded right now, the freebie that you get if you sign up for the subscribe link there to get my emails is my free ebook. And it's a wonderful journey into Christed consciousness for unleashing your genius. And so if anybody out there wants help, and they're looking for something, just a quick resource, head over to lifeatdawn.com, hit subscribe, and get that free book, because it's packed. It's only like 21 pages, but it's packed full of little goodies to help you on your path to Christed consciousness.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I'll definitely be definitely be looking into that too. I always love a good freebie, especially one that has to deal with the type of work you're doing because it is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. And then, yeah, so definitely we'll link all of that in the description. And then pretty much, Dawn, I just want to thank you so much for being a guest. I mean, it's just like I said, the work you're doing is so important. And I just love how it's so niche, but at the same time could really help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me, Melissa. It was a pleasure to be here.
Great, great. Okay, everybody. So that wraps up this episode of Confessions of a New Age Goddess. It's so great to see another way that the metaphysical methods can really impact us positively in our daily lives. And as always, if you're looking for a sense of calm and relief from the hectic moments of daily life, feel free to book a session with me, Reiki, and you can find me on the newagegoddess.com. And also, if you're looking just for some clarity, some guided messages, I can also do an Akashic Records reading for you too. I do remote and in person if you're in Chicago. And as always, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Much love and namaste.
Namaste.